Welcome to the Vernon Hills Update. The update offers information about a variety of village services. You'll meet a few of your neighbors and find out about upcoming events. On today's show, we'll check in with the Vernon Hills Police Department about their annual Cops on Rooftop to benefit Special Olympics, planned for May 19th at the Hawthorne Hills Dunkin' Donuts. We'll bid farewell to longtime village trustee and former mayor Barbara Williams as we take a look back at some of the history of Vernon Hills development into the thriving community it is today. We'll check in with Countryside Fire's Tony Rodkey for some springtime safety tips, including the proper way to wear a bike helmet and what to do if you are caught in a spring storm. We'll meet a good neighbor to know, Vernon Hills resident Joey Perlman, who recently competed in the Mrs. Illinois pageant. And we'll take a look back at some of the highlights from the April 21st Melody Farm groundbreaking ceremony. Thank you for tuning into the Vernon Hills Update.
How's everybody doing? I'm Kim Christensen with the Vernon Hills Police Department's Crime Prevention Unit, and with me is Officer Courtney Blau. And we have an interesting event coming up in the middle of May that Courtney wants to tell you about.
Thanks, Kim. On Friday, May 19th from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., we're going to be hosting our Cops on the Rooftop, which is an event that we raised for the Special Olympics of Illinois.
What time is the event on? It's Friday, May 19th from when?
5 a.m. to 9 a.m.
And what exactly happens at 5 to 9 on Friday, May 19th?
Well, it's actually pretty exciting. We have a lot of officers that are going to come on out here. Some are going to be on the roof, some will be down here. We're going to be taking donations for the Special Olympics. So every donation that's made, each individual receives a coupon for a free donut. If anybody makes a $10 donation, they get a free stainless steel mug with a coupon for free coffee. And in addition, what we do is we do what's called a munchkin drop. So any $5 donation that an individual makes, an officer that's on the roof will drop a munchkin to an officer here on the ground, and they will try to catch it in their mouth.
And if I remember correctly, how do you select the officers that are going to have to be on the sidewalk with their mouths open?
The actual person who makes the donation gets to pick which officer gets to receive the munchkin drop.
And it gets messy.
It sure does. Usually the powdered donuts get everywhere.
Officer Blau, how long has this been going on, not only at the state level, but locally?
Well, the Vernon Hills Police Department has been participating in it. This will be our 10th year, and in the 10 years that we have participated, we've raised over $13,000 for this great cause.
Meaning the Illinois Special Olympics. What you get a lot of what's the attitude like of the shoppers walking into Dunkin' Donuts in and out? Do they mind being hit for money that early in the morning?
No, I don't think that they mind at all. They know that it's going for a great cause, and everybody usually comes out and has a great time. And it's a lot of our officers will bring their family members as well and pick their mom or dad or whomever is working and get them to be the one that receives the munchkin drop. It's a really good time.
How do our officers get up on the roof?
There's actually an access in the back for a ladder that officers climb up onto the roof, and then safely they stay up there and drop the munchkins. And then we also have an officer who will be on the microphone who also is soliciting for the donations as well.
Like it always is. It sounds like it's going to be a great event. The weather's always cooperated. Hopefully it's going to cooperate again on Friday, May 19th. Okay, so let's give everybody the date, the times, and the details one more time and get them out there.
Okay, so it'll be on Friday, May 19th from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. here at the Vernon Hills Dunkin' Donuts. It's going to be a great time, and it's raising money for a great cause for the Special Olympics, and we hope to see you out here.
And if anybody has any questions about it, what's the best thing for them to do?
You can take a look at our website. You can give us a call at the non-emergency number, 362-4449. And then our Facebook page as well.
Well, fantastic. Hope to see everybody out here. Thank you very much for your time, Officer Blau. Appreciate it. And we'll see everybody on Friday, May 19th.
Well, from time to time, we like to talk to people who know a lot about our village. We call it Views of Vernon Hills, kind of like a little bit of a history segment. Tonight, we're going to have a little bit even of a goodbye segment and a thank you segment because we're with Barb Williams, one of our longtime trustees. And in fact, she was mayor of Vernon Hills for quite a while. So thank you for taking the time. We're not going to be sad. We're not going to cry. We're going to talk about some of your stories about Vernon Hills today and say thank you for all you've done as a public servant.
Sweet. Thank you very much for asking me.
Well, and let's talk about this. Now, Vernon Hills kind of had a boom for like in the 80s and 90s, but when did you show up in town and why did you end up here?
Well, I moved here in April of '77. My daughter was 2.5 then, and we were living down in Arlington Heights. And we're looking for a place and already thinking about, I should say, school districts. So I started checking districts out, and we liked 73. So we came up this way, not even knowing where we were going, to be honest. We were so silly. We would go all the way down Dundee Road to 83 and then come up and hit Arlington Heights Road, you know, over it and come on up to Vernon Hills. And a little side story, it was kind of funny. We were going back from checking on our building coming up. And as we went by Arlington Heights Road, I said to my husband, that was Arlington Heights Road. And he goes, it couldn't be. So we kept going to 83, and when we came back, he says, I'm going to go check that out. So he kept going north, and he couldn't believe it. 83 was right there.
So
we were
you guys
driving
could have gone straight
way out
north,
of our
yeah.
way to come up here.
Well, I've heard stories from a lot of people that it was the end of the earth to come to Vernon Hills. To most people,
it
say they
was
really
then.
didn't know
Nobody
what
had
was
any
here or
idea.
how to get here. or
And if you
anything.
came up 294 to 94, you were really lost. You thought, oh my goodness, I'm moving to Wisconsin. You know what's
Exactly.
going on.
Well, where did you guys build then? Where was your
In
neighborhood?
New Century Town, right across from the school. If you turn on Lafayette and went to the back part of that subdivision right there, or that development right there, we were all the way back there facing what was a big open field at the time. And nothing west of us was built and nothing north of us was built.
Well, let's talk about New Century because a lot of people don't know that area just north of Hawthorne Parkway. That was all that housing area. That was written up in the magazines and everything
Oh,
else. But
yes.
tell people about New Century Town.
New Century Town was built by United Development that basically built everything north of 60 all the way over to the railroad track. And they started from the east and went west and north. But when I moved in there in '77, we had Hawthorne Parkway, and there was nothing on Hawthorne Parkway all the way down to Lakeview, basically, except one condominium association and then mine. We didn't even have a grocery store. We had to go to Libertyville or to Mundelein to go grocery shopping. No drugstores. We had to do the same thing to go there. And gradually Hawthorne Commons came about. The mall was just about completed, or was completed. And they started with Hawthorne Commons, and Walgreens went in, and eventually Dominic's opened up
yeah.
over there, and that was a great joy, let me tell you. We were all excited when that happened. And of course, the school was in the process. A year later, I guess, they started building the North Kindergarten building, we called it. One of my neighbors, little girl, my daughter's best friend, was one of the first students to go there.
And when you talk about the if you're kind of new to the area, you don't realize that Hawthorne Schools was actually one of the first consolidated school districts. I know this when I used to work for Hawthorne and did a little
Yes.
history, and they combined some. And it was Sam Insull gave the money and the land, and I believe it was maybe like a 4-room building, but it was like top notch for this
It
whole
was beautiful,
area.
absolutely beautiful for the area. And he, even though he gave us the district, a big break on the property, he wouldn't reduce the price, but he told us to condemn the property and take possession of it. And that's what we did, basically.
Why would he want to do it that way?
Because it showed more that he could have a better tax deduction.
Oh, I guess
That's how we got that
the
way
wheeler
back
dealers
when.
work, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Well,
then,
and I want to go back to the New Century because some of those roofs, the roof lines in New Century, you guys had solar power in your neighborhood way back
that was in the
when?
townhomes right at the corner of Aspen and Hawthorne Parkway. So if you're coming from Walgreens or from 60 down to Hawthorne Parkway, that whole town line section in there had like you said,
The solar, way
solar
back,
roofs.
way ahead of the
back
time,
when.
way ahead of the time.
Exactly.
Well, and let's talk
Exactly.
about schools a little because If I remember just talking with you, I wondered how you got involved. You've been involved in a lot of stuff in this community almost since the day you got here.
Just about.
What got you involved and what was your pathway in that?
Well, I had always worked. I was a manager at a company, and I was just losing my mind sitting home, and I thought, I need something to do. And my husband said, why don't you get involved in the town and in the school? So I did, which was kind of funny because when I ran for mayor, he told me to get involved, not to jump in. That happened. I did get involved in the school, not just when my daughter started, but when my neighbor's daughter started. We started attending meetings at the school, and
I mean, like board meetings and volunteering?
Board
and things
meetings
like
and
that, yeah.
volunteering at the school. They had a long-range planning committee when we started looking for property to build Hawthorne South, and I was on that committee. I was on one of the junior high parent groups for stopping drugs from coming into school or being around, and you know, I was just really into it, so to speak. I was president of the condo association, and when I hit the village, as far as being involved there, it was because they were going to put an industrial something over by Weston Court and Butterfield Road, and everybody in my association was up in arms and said, you got to go do something. So I went to the meetings, and I was sitting there, and I thought, I can do this. I know I can do this. So the next election, I got on planning and zoning first.
Okay.
And then the next election in '81, I ran along with 15 other people
Wow.
for trustee. There were 3 trustee positions open, and 15 of us ran for those. It was amazing.
Oh, and
It was
because
fun.
think about that too. The population at that time,
Was
when you look at
nothing.
population numbers, it was probably in the hundreds.
When I moved in, it was 2,700 in '77.
2,700.
2,700 when I moved in. And it just started growing by leaps and bounds.
Well, let's talk about that growth too, because you've been involved. You were involved in the schools. You've been involved in the community, in the village, in the planning and zoning, and things like that. We had one of the previous mayors, I think the mayor right before you,
Phil Ellis?
Those gentlemen and different gentlemen over time talked about how Vernon Hills started planning early on. There was a woman
yes.
named Adeline
Adeline Geocaris.
who said, you had better plan this, and we
Yes.
better do it in a certain way, or it's going to be out of, we want to keep it in control,
Right.
and you want to do it where it's good for everybody. So can you talk about that process and a little bit about, I mean, you're kind of a rebel,
No,
you're-
really? I've been called that.
you're a woman who takes charge. Adeline was a woman who took charge. This community has really been founded by, just everybody give it your best. So let's talk about that process, getting us here.
Right. Adeline was State Senator Adeline Geocaris, and was also at one time mayor of Zion. And funny side story to that one, Governor Thompson came up and swore her in, so she was well known, to say the least. But she was a strong lady and had a great sense of development. And she did tell the board that. John Sullivan was the mayor prior to Phil. And as they got closer to building, and United had came to them to annex everything north of 60 there, down up to the railroad tracks. And Deer Path came in, and then that came in, and it was all being built at the same time, really. Geo was smart enough to sit down and tell them, you need to do this, and they were smart enough to say, she's right, we got to plan this, or we're going to have a hodgepodge mess. And she guided them through the process, and we've always had a plan, whatever that plan may be, and we've seen it through before we made a new plan. We made sure that one was completed before we moved on. And it does all go back to Geocaris, absolutely.
That's a long time ago. So
And
that's
our
a lot
forefathers, the boards that were around at that time. And they all did a great job. I mean, I'm just so proud of our town. I can't tell you. This is my home.
Yeah, this is your home. So we're not going to cry, though.
No, I'm not.
This will always be your home. So let's talk about how long you've been involved, and what year was the year you came on as mayor, and then you've had trustee positions.
Well, I was on planning and zoning in maybe late '79. No, I was on it in '80. I was elected as trustee in '81 and again in '85. That didn't work. Yeah, it did. '84. 84. And
In the
then I
80s.
became mayor in 89. And I went off the board in 93. My husband was getting ill already. And we didn't know it at the time, but we knew something was wrong. And my daughter was getting ready to go away to college. And I thought, I need to devote some time to them. Being an elected official and truly putting your heart and soul in it, you need to do that. You need to know what's going on. You need to stay informed and involved, or don't do it.
Yeah.
And I felt I couldn't do it and keep up with my family, so I let it go and went off the board for 2 terms, which was 8 years. And every time came election time, the mayor would say, Barb, you got to run again. I'd go, no, I'm not. So finally, after 8 years, I agreed. He said it one more time. I'm going to ask you one more time. You got to run. And I went, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, the
I've
history
been
of
back on since 2001.
Well, sometimes that history of those stories, it can inform. Is somebody new comes in, it's always good to hear those stories for how those steps happened. How did you get? It's hard to understand how you get to where we are today without some of that history, and then to know how to move it forward in the right direction.
It's not easy coming on a board and not knowing what's going on. Prior to, or I should say up to and including when I was elected, everybody on the board had served on a committee at some point in time before they came on the board. And that's fine. It was great experience for us, those that did it. But the new people coming on, they need to stay involved and know what's going on too. We've got 2 new trustees coming on board that's going to be sworn in a couple of weeks. And it was good to see them coming and attending the
Yes.
board meetings and trying to keep abreast and find out what's going on and why it was going on, and not walk in there that first Tuesday night and be sworn in and go, now what do we do?
Yeah.
Where do we
What
sit?
did I get
what
into?
goes on? Exactly.
Yeah, so I've always liked how you've said, if you've got an interest, anybody should be able to get involved at some level. And I think that's,
Anybody.
I'm always excited when I see a lot of people running for an office, because to
Yes.
me that means we're interested, we're trying to make a difference for our community, and the more people that are trying to do something good for the community, and that's kind of like a Vernon Hills hallmark to me.
It is.
People do, there's a lot of people that volunteer for stuff that we never really hear how much work they're doing. So,
And we have a lot of things that you can get involved in. I mean, not just the village committees, but summer celebration, Oktoberfest, the 4th of July. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
and then you go to the schools,
Or
they all need
you go
our
to the
help,
schools,
yeah.
they've got everything going on. The park district's got a lot. The police department does marvelously. I mean, they're involved in so much stuff going on, and they're always looking for help. So if you don't want to become involved in something else, get a hold of them. They'll
Find
tell you what to
something,
do to
find
help.
something, yeah. When we talk about it, it is harder today because it is a different community than when you
It
moved
is.
here. Because think about, you said it was 2,700. What do we think we're at, like 25?
Close to 26, I think,
26,000
yeah, right around there.
now.
Yes.
And that growth came relatively quickly. We're still, we tend to be a little transient too, because somebody will transfer in. They know they're going to be here for a while for work, but they like the schools.
Oh,
It's
of
the same
course.
story you had. They like the
Yeah.
schools. They want to be
The
here.
school brought me here. But back in the day, talking about people being involved, when the village first started out, Joanne Christiangi, she was the village clerk for years, God rest her soul. But if there was a problem in town, the only way she could communicate with the police was to put her porch light on. And they would drive by and see it and go, oh, we got a call. And they'd go in and she'd tell them what to do.
No cell phones, no
cell
radios,
phones,
nothing.
no nothing. And that's the way
Well,
she
it was
put
a
in
while before
call.
they even got a police car, right?
Oh, yeah, it was a long time.
So-
And then the police chief lived right down the street from her, so he would look out of his window and then come running if the light was on.
So everybody just knew to call
Everybody
her.
knew to call Joanne. Everybody knew to
So
call
she was
Joanne.
on call all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I heard stories that even at the beginning, some of the earlier people, there wasn't even a village hall.
Oh, no.
They would meet just like in a construction trailer or somebody's
or
house.
whatever, or at the old motel across the street from the village hall here.
Okay.
When this was Tally Ho Country Club.
Well, let's talk about that Tally Ho Country Club, because that was one of the first developments over here, and then was that an 18-hole golf? That was a bigger golf
It
course
was an
than what it
18
is
hole
now.
at the time, right? It was a large golf course. It had the old Lashin Center, which was the village hall once upon a time, and there were worker condos straight down Evergreen, or yeah, Evergreen
Evergreen,
down
yeah.
here. Were still standing when I moved here. They were all still over there. Of course, when I got involved, we were meeting in the trailer on Oakwood Road.
Oh, yeah, that's when somebody, that trailer
The
over
double
there,
wide
yeah,
trailer,
yeah.
right.
Well, and before it was even the Tally Ho Country Club, wasn't it a restaurant? It
was a restaurant,
And it was
yes.
a fancy restaurant.
Fancy restaurant.
I
Very well
mean,
known.
think about, because
And
I've
this was
seen,
a getaway, it's probably a history nobody wants to talk about, but at one time it was, the mob was a hangout.
well, because they could.
At one time, because they could. They could
Because
come
there's
out and
nothing
do their
out here.
thing.
Nobody's
No,
out here.
there's
You could come
nothing
out here and
around,
enjoy
nothing.
yourself. Well, and I know a lot of the tycoons would come out from Chicago even in earlier days. So
Oh, sure.
while we didn't have really anything here, there were some giant estates around here.
Gorgeous estates around
You
here.
know, and some of them just such Cuneo's, the Cuneo
Cuneo's
mansion
one.
still left, but there were. I've heard people talk about my father worked on an estate.
yeah.
It was more beautiful than Cuneo.
Red Top Farms over in Milwaukee. It was a gorgeous horse stable for racehorses. It was beautiful. It was still standing when I moved out here. Hawthorne Melody Farms, right up on Cuneo. That was standing for a long time with their little zoo, that petting zoo they had there. That was gone by the time I moved out, but the Melody Farms was still standing. It wasn't an operating farm at the time.
Let's talk
or
about
dairy.
all these changes. You talk about, Melody Farms, and now we have some new developments coming in again. We're kind of to the end of our empty land, but at a time,
Yes.
there were a lot of open spaces. Think about,
yes.
tell me about the Nike site. I mean, I remember kids telling me, I didn't move here as a kid, but I
Right.
remember kids saying, oh yeah, we'd play around in there, and there were
Oh, they
bunkers
would.
for the
They would.
for the missiles, and we could go run around in there. But
The
now
Nike
it's what it
site
is.
was literally that, the Nike missile site. There was, I forgot how many silos were over there at one time with, missiles in them. And when they finally closed the base down, the runways and stuff was still used for training for various police departments, including Chicago. But the kids would go over there and come home with live bullets from the shooting range. Go, where did you get that? We were in. What are you doing in there? You're not supposed to be in there. Well, there was a hole in the fence. They'd go wandering around. And the naval base had touch and goes with Big Huey landing over there. They touch and go and shake your whole house as they went over, and people thought we were being invaded. You'd get these weird phone calls. What's happening? But the Nike site was a big, big project that I am very proud of. Proud to say that we started, some of our projects were started back in the 80s and took a long time to come about. I remember the mayor of Libertyville, Joanne, oh gosh, I can't remember her last name.
No, I can't remember it now.
Oh, anyway, Joanne was mayor in Libertyville, Marilyn Sindels from Mundelein, and Verna Clayton from Buffalo Grove. We all were fighting to get the train put in, the commuter train, I should say. And that was started back when I was mayor, so it took a long time to happen. And it's a great little project. We've had that little project. It was a huge project. That we got the Nike site developed. We got post office. We have a library.
High school.
We've got a high school. That was a big plus, getting the high school. And getting the land from the Nike site for the schools. I mean, all of that was negotiated with the Navy as to who was getting what and how much land, and all of our schools around got
something
got
from it.
something.
Well, think about that too. Like when you go down to Glenview, they handled their base much differently.
Yes.
Whereas you all people planning here in those days decided you wanted it more for the good of the order
wanted
as
it for
opposed to more
everybody.
homes or
Right,
whatever.
right. We
Well,
wanted
and
it
when we
open.
call it the Nike site, we know that's from the Nike bases, but we didn't get to call it the Nike site.
Well,
It's called the Vernon Hills Athletic Complex.
Right, which is fine. But somewhere
is
along
fine.
the line, somebody decided that they needed to write a letter. It wasn't the board, but somebody wrote a letter to Nike gym shoes, saying they wanted to name the Nike site Nike site. Well, they thought we were talking about their gym shoes. No. If we hadn't have written that letter, it would have been the Nike site. For some reason, it was just dropped along the
And
wayside.
I remember seeing some of the correspondence back where they really felt like this athletic place was infringing upon their
They're right,
They're
yes.
right, and it was you know, and it kind of put me off Nike for a little while.
Well, I know it did me also, because it had nothing to do with
Right,
shoes.
right, it had nothing to do with shoes.
It was
all
a part
to
of
do with
our,
the community.
history of
Yeah.
what it was all about. You know, you don't think of a missile site being in your backyard,
Yeah.
basically.
And
One
it doesn't
time
look
we
like
talked
that at
about
all.
getting a dud, if you will, and putting it over there
Right,
someplace, you know, at one of the sites.
Well, and you
yeah.
know too, yeah, kind of in the center, and how the ground had to be worked on. For instance, it's my understanding Rust-Oleum Field for the high school football field had to be sunk in a little because of
The
that
restriction
big
on height, the
vortex.
vortex for
Yes,
O'Hare.
For O'Hare,
Right.
a
It
lot
had
of-
to be rebuilt. Because it
vortex
was
or the-
the whole thing, the whole
Okay.
vortex had to be redone.
and that is for guiding planes in and out of
That's
O'Hare in
the-
some of the
oh,
areas.
That's
yeah.
the radar for O'Hare.
Well, now, and I've understood too that they've kind of switched to GPS, but they keep this redundant,
Yes, as a
you know,
backup.
as a backup. So
Sure.
it's going to be there for a while till we hear differently, but it
It's a
doesn't
big
do
height
anything.
restriction
But
on
it doesn't
right.
do anything.
It doesn't do anything.
Okay,
right
because
now.
I know some people come and they think
Yeah.
we're, you know, sending out laser beams or something.
Oh, I know. Everybody's so worried about getting radiation. from
Yeah,
it.
yeah, but it doesn't do anything. It just sits there.
It just
and it
sits
sits there in case something goes wrong with the GPS.
I said
and
it
then-
kind of reminds me of a children's merry-go-round. Yeah, I keep waiting for something to spin off of it. You know?
Well, it sounds kind of neat when the wind blows too. It has
Yes.
a very eerie sound.
Right.
So,
You can
well,
hear
that's
that.
that's the Vernon Hills Athletic Complex. That's the high school. That's all those things, those intergovernmental and agreements that you made, and how the schools work together. It was a long time coming. You were here for that.
Well,
Do
the
you-
north of 60. You want to talk about that one? Greg's Landing project.
Greg's Landing. Oh, that's right.
Originally, they had gone to, United had gone to Libertyville to annex in, and Libertyville didn't want any parts of it. They said, no, we don't want it. So we went after it. I literally went after it. And United said, yeah, you know, we'll do that if you can get it. So we started meeting with Mr. Cuneo and his attorneys, and that was going on for years.
Cuneo property could have, because it is right at the edge of Libertyville.
Correct.
So at one point, it was just a decision of which direction it went. Then.
Right. And
Interesting.
because it was north of the tracks, they thought, well, this should probably be Libertyville.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we said, well, it should be.
You were more aggressive.
But
maybe.
we were very aggressive. And we, at the same time, were very cognizant of how that development was going to affect our sisters and brothers around us. So while we wanted to develop it somewhat our way, we still made sure that it wasn't going to overly impact the surrounding communities.
Well, what about, back up a little further then, Greg's, as we talk about Cuneo, but where did the land for the mall come from? Was that Cuneo
That was
property?
Cuneo also. Everything north of 60 was Cuneo.
Wow.
The whole thing was Cuneo. And as you know, the last piece of Cuneo was going to be our Hawthorne Melody
Farms, yeah.
Farms development. That was my baby corner, I always called it. I want it. Big hotel with lots of banquet rooms, because we don't have
We
that.
don't have any conference
We do
centers,
not
yeah.
have that in town. And we really tried to get a hotel to come and build something there, because Marriott was so close, they really weren't that interested in doing it.
I see, yeah.
But that's the last big piece.
Yeah, well, and we got the mall kind of the same way. Libertyville didn't want it.
The whole thing, the Libertyville didn't want it. Well, they would take it, but they didn't want to take the tax rolls part of it, the outstanding debt that went along with the property.
Okay.
So that does the same thing with the schools. At one time, Hawthorne School talked with District 70 about taking, District 73 goes all the way up to Gulf Road. Gulf Road, yes, Gulf Road. And they didn't want to take the indebtedness from the school to change to that district. And we said, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
You get it all or you get,
know,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So that's why we just kept it all.
Wow. Well, the same thing, you know, because some of the boundaries, especially when you talk about school boundaries, they are odd. But when you go back to the times where you remember where there weren't neighborhoods, you can remember.
That's right.
Probably it was a farmhouse in the
Right.
land, and then a farmhouse in the land.
Right.
And that's how the tax rolls that went. They went where the house
tax rolls
was.
went, and most of your school boundaries are straight lines. Right on Deer Path. At one time we had, you'd come to the south end of Deer Path, you had Libertyville, and you go around one of the curves, and that was Stevenson. You come back around the other way, and it was Libertyville again. And it just weaved in and out, up and down there. And the same thing over at the other side of town. We have children going to all 3 high schools.
Yeah.
You know, Mundelein, Libertyville, and
Well,
Stevenson.
and that wasn't part of the strategic plan. It was just part of where
That
where
was already-
each of the big farms, how they were already
and
tax
the school
rolled.
districts were drawn many, many years ago, and it's very hard to change.
Right.
Very hard.
Yeah.
All it takes is one person in whatever group that you want to move can say no, and it's no.
Well, and then it goes back to that, the
It's gotta
tax
be
rolls and the
100%,
liabilities
tax
and the
roll all that
benefits,
kinds
and
of- absolutely.
it's a huge thing.
Yep.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot of stuff as you've been through here. I mean, just
It's
the
been
growth.
fun. It's
Just
been
the
fun.
growth. What do you think of the traffic? I mean, the
Well, we've been planning for that as much as we could. We were just informed that it looks like 60 is going to finally get repaved also.
Oh.
I think the bids are supposed to be let sometime this spring.
Well, when we
for-
talk
from
about that
83
process-
all the way down to the river.
83 to
From
the river?
83,
Okay.
60 all the way across.
Wow.
Of course, we're pushing to get 45 widened, totally widened, not just repaved. We want it widened. And it really is needed. It's needed badly.
Well, and those are the kinds of things you don't have.
But we don't have control.
You don't have
over
any
it.
control over it, but you continually stay in the ear. And I've heard some of those things are decades on the.
It takes forever. Takes
Yeah.
forever.
So-
The four-leaf clover at 60 and 294, that was supposed to be at 22 when we got it. And Lincolnshire decided they didn't want it. So we found out the morning of the CATS meeting, the Regional Council of Mayors meeting, was scheduled for that night. Phil Ellis was the mayor, and he was out of town. So Mr. Herb Kipp, our village manager, and I sat at the village hall and called every mayor in Lake County to get them to move the funds instead of losing the funds.
Don't lose them, move it.
Move it up to 60. We would like to see that. And they all agreed, and that's how we ended up getting it as soon as we did. I mean, it was scheduled, but nowhere near as quickly
Right,
as we
yeah.
got it years ago.
Well, what is it like today compared to what it was? You know, you've seen a lot of history of time. Is
Route
it
60 was 2 lanes
Yeah,
when we moved out here.
2 lanes, and the
2
traffic
lanes.
probably moved because there weren't that many of y'all.
There wasn't that many, but my husband, God rest his soul, he was very upset because when they widened 60 and put in roll curbs, well, that lowered the speed limit. It was automatic. It went from 45 to 40, and he goes, "How can that be? We now have 4 lanes. We can't go as fast."
Well, what about and what about now? You know, we've got a lot of people that come to work here now. We've got
All
we've
of
got a lot
our-
of corporate
yes.
headquarters. We've got all these corporate woods.
Well, we
areas
planned
and
all of
things like
those
that.
for one big reason. We don't have a personal property tax in Vernon Hills. No resident pays a personal property tax. And we always said, if and when that ever came about, the burden's going to be on our residents, and we didn't want that. So we went after the corporate developments to try to offset, if we ever had a property tax, it would offset the burden on the residents.
So that's all those industrial parks were very
Yes.
specifically
They were
formed and
specifically
set aside
formed
for that.
yes.
And those have
Yes.
grown.
They've grown. We're very
Incredible.
proud of them, number
Yeah.
one. They're beautiful. They're nicely laid out. They're nicely maintained. And it took a lot of work to get all of that done. At the same time, as they were coming in, we were over there saying, well, you know, you bought this land. We need some over here for this, or we need some over there for that. You know, the post office, the library, you know, all of that. You know, it wasn't, well, the library, we had to buy the land for that. But the others, we got most of that, if not all of them, donated for whatever site we wanted to go in.
The services you needed as the community grew.
Correct.
And to keep it balanced, you know, the corporate retail.
Keep it balanced, absolutely.
Homes and all that stuff like that.
And bringing in the park or the post office wasn't just because it was great to have a Vernon Hills post office, but the businesses wanted a post office nice and handy where they could drop their mails, their mailings, or their packages off at without running off to Libertyville or Mundelein.
Mundelein, yeah.
So that helped bring business in.
Kind of amazing when you do look back, when we've seen pictures or you look back in your memories
Oh, yes.
about just how fast everything has gone from nothing to
Yes.
Quite a place.
Yes.
And as somebody who's been involved, I know that you always encourage everybody to stay involved, and that's been kind of how you
Absolutely.
are. I mean, look at you. The only reason, and we're here also to say thank you for all that time you've given. Okay, neither one of us are, just be smiling on this.
I will. I'm fine.
But you've done so much, and you've always done it. And the only reason you didn't run again was you're going to move out east to be with your grandbabies.
Yes,
Otherwise,
I
you'd
am.
still probably be running and involved
I would
at some
still
level.
be here probably, yes.
Yeah, volunteering for something or doing something. So.
I'm sure. My daughter and her husband have relocated last year to North Carolina, and I'm suffering horrible grandma withdrawals, so it's time for me to go too.
Okay.
So,
But that's the only reason. Otherwise,
that's
I
the
know
only
you
reason
would
I'm
still be
leaving.
involved. I know you'd be over there working
Yes.
with the schools to figure out what they need and all those things. So I guess before we say our final thank you, I would like you to just encourage people to get involved because
absolutely.
that's been your life.
It's so rewarding. It really is. I mean, you have no idea if you truly, truly care about your town, about your church, about your religion. Get involved in that. Don't sit back and then later on point a finger and say, well, they didn't do it. You didn't do it, not they. You have to be involved and really and truly care about your town. And I love my town. I've told the board before, and I'm sure I'll repeat it tomorrow night. I don't want to come back here in 10 years and have to call each one of you up and say, what did you do to my town? This is my town, and I hope everybody that lives here feels that way.
Yeah.
My daughter is so in love with this town, even though she was 2. She calls it home, obviously, but she cares about it enough that she brought her 2 sons back here to be baptized at our church. And it's very hard for me to pick up and move away. It's
Well,
going to be hard.
Well, you've always
But-
got a place here because Vernon Hills
Thank
is
you.
Vernon Hills.
Thank you.
And I think that's what a lot of people, when even if they're here a short time, they feel the connection, and hopefully they
Oh,
feel the
yes.
community. Even though the community has grown, we're still a community. And
Yes,
there's
we
so
are.
many people that are excited to do the same as you have and carry on that, where they continue
I
to,
hope so.
to volunteer and be involved and care about what happens.
Yes.
That's what you want to see. You want to see people discussing this stuff. You
I
want
do,
to see, you
and
want
I
to see
don't
a
want
variety
a
of opinions.
one-subject person. I want whoever's running, whoever's elected, you've got to be doing it for the good of the community, not for one little section of town and not for your personal vendetta. Do it because you love our town and you want to help keep it the way it is or make it better.
Yeah, and having
all there
that
is to
difference
it.
of opinion, that discussion, that's
You need
really
that.
good. You
You
need
need
that.
that. You
We need that
absolutely
to
need that.
keep this thing
You do.
going the way it's supposed
To make
to.
somebody
So-
sit back and go, oh, maybe you're
Exactly,
right.
exactly. So,
Oh,
well,
it shouldn't be all one-sided.
well, hopefully everybody can see your example and know that there's a place for everybody to get involved and stay involved and make a difference.
That's for sure.
Thank you for all you've done all this
Oh,
time,
thank you,
because I
Lynn.
know a lot of times I know you were going to meetings when you had a lot of things you needed to be doing at home or at work, and you kept it going. So thank you for all of
Thank
that.
you.
On behalf of Vernon Hills, thank you for your service, and good luck out east in the
Thank
warm
you.
climate. So enjoy
Yes, that's gonna be nice.
yourself. We'll probably all come and visit. So thank
There you
you
go.
so much.
Please do. Just give me a call.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, it's a beautiful day. We're here at Countryside Fire on Deer Path Drive to see our friend Fireman Tony Rodkey. You guys in the schools, you know Fireman Tony because you're busy all the time. And in fact, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to surprise you a little. You probably aren't going to like this, but Fireman Tony has won some big awards lately, as has Countryside. You're like Fire Educator of the Year. You know you don't want to talk about it, but come on.
Well, it was very humbling, and I'm honored as a Countryside Fire District member to say that the Illinois Fire Inspectors Association recognized Fireman Tony, with the Lonnie Jackson Educator of the Year, and it was very humbling. There's a lot of well-deserving folks out there that have been in the fire and life safety education arena that are as well and deserving, and it's just a great honor.
Well, we're proud of you, Tony. We know you're in the schools a lot. You put a lot of effort in. Countryside makes that such a priority. So congratulations to you and to Countryside. And I heard that you just keep racking up the awards, because I know Countryside is part of another thing where you help the kids at Camp YME, and you've been doing that for forever.
Yeah, the Camp IME is one of the programs from the Illinois Fire Safety Alliance. And NIPIT, the Northern Illinois Public Education Team of the Lake County Fire Chiefs, was recognized above and beyond for the program they organized during this camp for burn victims. And the fun fair is what NIPIT puts together, the education team, from all the different surrounding departments here in Lake County, and Countryside Fire has been in full support of the public education team here in Lake County that I take part of, and I was able to be part of the receiving end of that award as well. Coincidentally, it was today.
Well, you know what? Sorry, I put Fireman Tony on the spot. I know. Look, he's blushing, but what are you going to do? We're proud of you, Tony.
Thank you.
And as parents, we thank you too for the work you do in the school, because our kids are much smarter than we are about a lot of this. And so today we're going to cover some more safety tips. You know that a lot of you bigger kids, you can teach your younger brother and sister, but one of the things we want to talk about first is it's getting nice. People are out on their bikes, their skateboards, their roller skates, their scooters. You want to see helmets, and not just put a helmet on your head, but you want them to wear it right. So let's first talk about how to wear a helmet properly, where it's supposed to protect you most.
Okay, with wearing a bicycle helmet or a helmet anytime you're on a scooter or those types of apparatus, if you will, we want to make sure that it's across your forehead. Okay, we don't want the helmet up like this. We need the helmet no more than a finger width above your eyebrow, so that if you do fall, it's going to take the impact on the helmet. And when you're buckling up the strap, you want to make sure it's snug but not too tight. A finger width is good. This way, it's not going to be shaken when you turn your head or you look down, and you still have the helmet covering your forehead.
So the key is keep the protection to the front, because that's really where most of the accidents are going to happen.
Yes, lots of times we see the kids wearing the helmets like this, and that is improper.
So do it forward, keep it hooked so it doesn't come off. Adults should be doing this too. We need to set models for our kids, and we need to be safe too.
Just like buckling up in a car. Mom and dad buckle up, the children buckle up. Mom and dad wear the helmet, the children wear the helmet. It becomes a culture, a safety culture. And we want to be seen when we're on bikes. So the more reflectors you have, those flags that they have that you can, be seen from a distance, that's positive and that's safe as well.
Try to be as safe as possible. And now I've heard that if you do fall off your bike or your helmet has a little crack, that sometimes it's good to replace those helmets, even if they still fit. Is that the case?
Absolutely. And the bike shops and the places that sell bikes and helmets, they'll let you know that as well. And definitely want to replace any helmet that has a crack in it.
Okay. Anything we should look for? Are there how we'll say for Christmas lights, we'll say you look for the UL seal of approval. Are there certifications?
There are certifications, and your vendor, your bike shops will be able to point that out on the helmets.
Okay. And they'll help you fit too, to make sure it's fitting the right way.
For sure.
Okay. So that's helmets. And you're trying to build that culture. I appreciate that, Fireman Tony. Let's talk another thing we're trying to build a culture around, and that's when it gets to be ready. Yeah, you can take your helmet off. We're pretty safe. We're gonna be careful here.
Thanks, Lynn.
Well, the next thing we're talking about is, I know you wanted to bring up about grilling season and fire pit season, and you tend to get worried as fire protectors that sometimes people burn things they shouldn't, or they don't pay attention, and we have little fires start.
That's right. There's no open burning in Vernon Hills. The burns that you can do are in your manufactured fire pits. We want to make sure we're at least 10 feet away from the house. Make sure that you have some water available, so when you are finished for the evening with your little campfire in your manufactured burn pit, that you're going to fully extinguish that fire. If the wind were to pick up, that's how fires can spread. So let's get some water on that when you're finished. As well with grilling, we want to make sure that the grill is on a non-combustible surface. What I mean by that is concrete, brick pavers, asphalt, gravel, not on wooden decks. We've had a lot of deck fires caused by grilling that people go inside and then the deck catches on fire and the neighbor's calling 911. Non-combustible service, and have the lid available for your grill as well, at least 10 feet away from the house.
So that's something we got to remember all year round. I grill all year round, so I need to be ready all the time. But that's grilling. Now, another thing we want to quick mention, we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but as people are watching this, those spring and summer storms are going to be rolling in. And you've got watches and warnings, but can you just remind people about when they hear something, what they should be doing, how we can stay safe, whether it's where to be in the house or whatever?
Okay. Well, first of all, to understand the difference, a watch is when the weather is starting to turn bad. A warning, it's imminent. There's been lightning strikes or a tornado spotted. Warnings mean you got to take cover. When our warning sirens sound off, please get inside, get to a safe area in your house. Typically it's the basement or away from windows in a hallway. If you do get caught outside, and in a rare case your hair is standing up, that means lightning is about to strike. We want to make ourselves as small as possible. That's grabbing ourselves and scooching down and making yourself as small as possible. That's not laying in a ditch or anything like that. But before those conditions happen, the sirens are going off. Please get inside, take cover. The basement's your probably best location.
So you're saying that if lightning strikes are coming, you might actually feel it, like electricity or something like that?
Well, if it's about to strike, absolutely.
Okay, so that's when you scrunch down into a ball,
Yes.
rather than flat, because I always heard storms coming lie flat in a ditch so the air can go over top of you, but this is different.
Correct. Main thing is get inside if you can.
Okay, that's the key. So if you hear those sirens, get home, get in someplace, run in the neighbor's house, whatever you got to do, just get inside. Our neighbors are nice. They'll let us in. Okay, the big next thing, Fire Safety Expo coming up on Saturday, May 13th, 10 to 3 at Gurnee Mills. Can we talk about this? You've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, I like to show this to everybody. On Saturday, May 13th, it's a chance for you to see all the fire department's equipment from Lake County, Illinois. This is what the Northern Illinois Public Education Team's been doing, and this will be the 20th year. It's been at Gurnee Mills. It's going to be on the east side of the Gurnee Mills Mall near the Bass Pro, and you're going to be able to see fire sprinkler demonstrations, live fire, what happens if we don't have sprinklers, the catastrophe that occurs there. There's going to be the smoke trailer, a chance for children and adults alike to crawl through and escape under smoke. There's going to be high angle demonstrations from our special response teams.
What is high angle?
High angle, they're going to be hanging from about 100 feet up in the air off the ladder tower and showing you how they would rescue somebody from a rope. The trench team's going to be demonstrating their equipment and the technologies that they have there. The hazmat team's going to be having a demonstration as well. The Waukegan Bomb Squad is going to be demonstrating their robot. There's just a whole bunch of different...
It's all free.
And it's all free. Demonstrations, lots of handouts for children. There's a passport. You go from station to station, and at the end you turn in your passport that's been stamped, and there's some great giveaways for the folks who can come out on Saturday, May 13th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Gurnee Mills near the Bass Pro.
So just show up there. Just show up for a free day of lots of it's informative, it's fun, it's great. It's a great day.
They even give the kids a chance to be in a combat challenge.
What is a combat challenge?
They put on the gear and they're going to do some obstacles.
And so that's for all ages, though. It's good for everybody. Everybody's going to be interested in that. So that's Saturday, May 13th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. That's okay. We're good here. So that's a lot of information we just gave everybody. But there's more information online. You're in the schools. You're walking around. You're doing stuff. But people can always go to your website. They can always call the non-emergency and ask some questions. But we always like to end the story with if you're in doubt, if you don't know if you need help, if you're thinking maybe you need a little extra help, remind people that you guys are ready to help.
When in doubt, call it out, 911. If you're asking, gosh, should I call 911? You're not sure, the answer is yes.
Yeah, you guys are never going to yell for that. You'd rather be there to help than to let something go on too long.
Absolutely. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Fireman Tony. Congratulations to you and to Countryside Fire. Thank you to all you do for us. And remember, come out on May 17th, May 13th, excuse me, to the expo. If you've got questions, look online, talk to Tony, start wearing your helmets, and we'll have a good, safe spring. Thanks very much, Tony.
You're welcome.
Well, from time to time on the update, we like to introduce people to their neighbors. And we have a good neighbor to know who's joined us. Thank you to Joy Perlman for making the trip over to the studio. It's wonderful to see you today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
And we've got a great story about Joy. You've been very busy. As we're taping this, you've come off a busy week of the Mrs. Illinois pageant. We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we talk about that journey that you've been on, first, you're a Vernon Hills resident, correct?
I am.
How long have you been here?
I've been here almost 15 years.
That's pretty long for Vernon Hills standards. A lot of people are new to the area, but most people haven't been born here. Were you from around here to start with? How'd you get here?
No. Actually, I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh.
And then I went to college in Colorado and then moved here from there. So.
I was going to say that's quite paradise, and then Vernon Hills. Not that
Right.
it's not a paradise, but you know what I'm saying.
We moved around a little bit in between. I never really stayed in one place. I didn't have your typical upbringing. Unfortunately, my mom was very, very transient. She was addicted to drugs, and we were homeless. We moved around quite a bit. But that's where my story gets very, very fascinating, and that's what's kind of made me what I am today, and what's made me the independent, strong, outgoing person that I am. And I'd like to call myself an in spite of, not a because of.
Well, and that's a message that I think comes through with all the work you do.
Yeah.
So, and obviously that's something that's important to your family. You're raising your kids here.
Yes.
And that's a mess. Can you introduce us to your family just a little bit?
Yeah, so I have, my husband is Daniel, and we've been together for almost 8 years, and we have a son. His name is Christopher, and then I have 2 daughters, Lindsay and Tatum. And we do a lot of community service here in Lake County, and also around the state as well. And it's important for us, we feel, to give back. Important for me to give back because I feel I was, obviously raised by the community, and that's why we do what we do, and that's why it's important to give back.
Well, talk to me about what is like one of your favorite organizations, because we like people to know where they can connect themselves.
And one of our favorite things that we give back to is right here in Lake County. It's right in Libertyville, right outside of Vernon Hills. And it's the Lake County Haven, and it's a homeless shelter for women and children. And I encourage everybody to go out. There's so many things that you can do for them. You can bring them meals. You can bring them lunches. On the website, you can just go and they have a wish list that you can donate to them. And it's a wonderful organization because what they do is they help women and children who are homeless for whatever the reason may be. And they rehabilitate them in a way that they educate them. They teach them ways to not be homeless, because it's very, very easy to just give someone a shelter for the night and then turn them back out onto the street. But you're not teaching them anything. You're not saying, hey, if there's something wrong with you, say an emotional problem, if there's a drug addiction, if there's something wrong with domestic violence. Sometimes, people don't realize that domestic violence, there's an issue there and it needs to be taken care of. And you need to get the counseling, you need to get the therapy, you need to get the support that you need. And oftentimes you don't have that family support behind you. It's absent, so you're on your own, so you feel like you have to go back to your abuser. But they rehabilitate you and they give you all those tools necessary for you to move forward and to sustain your life that you need to move forward and to not become homeless again, to be able to take care of your child and yourself.
And you're right, that's a grassroots effort right here in our midst. There's a lot of people that give to that. And when you talk about the wish list can be something as easy as buying an extra bale of toilet paper.
Correct.
Or coming and helping somebody with their finances and
Right.
learning accounting
Yeah.
or helping that way. So.
And something as easy as when you're the next time you're at Target, pick up a $10 gift card. Pick up a $10 gift card. You know, that's your meal at Portillo's. So you don't eat at Portillo's. So instead, you give it to the Lake County Haven.
The Haven is an awesome
Yeah.
thing. Well, and I can tell it's close to your heart.
It is close to my heart.
You know how important that support
I
system can
do.
be and the difference it makes in a child's life and in your life.
Absolutely, because I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there. And
exactly.
same another one is Families Helping Families Chicagoland. I do a lot with them, and they are not specific to one organization. They help multiple organizations, and we do a lot with them as well, and they do a lot in within our county as well. So it's there's so many things that you can get out and do, and I encourage families and I encourage them to take their children and teach their children to give back, because if you instill that in your children now, then they'll grow up giving back, and then they'll teach their children to give back, and it's a chain effect.
Well, I think about that chain, and a lot of people think, well, we're in Lake County, so much affluence. Everybody has everything they need, but there is need, and it's sometimes hidden right in our midst. We don't always know
Absolutely.
who has the need,
Yeah.
whether it be for emotional support, addiction support, housing, whatever. But it is the need is great all around us.
Absolutely. And a lot of things, people aren't aware of. You think, oh, we live in Vernon Hills and it's beautiful here and there's beautiful houses and it's a beautiful community and our schools are wonderful. But a lot of things that people don't realize is there's domestic violence no matter where you look, no matter where you are, no matter how big, how beautiful the houses are. So that's one thing that you need to be aware of. And that can start a chain effect as well. And there are women that feel trapped and feel like there's nowhere to turn. And there's always somewhere to turn.
Well, and one of the ways is the Haven. You can call
Absolutely.
the Haven and say, I need help, and they will help you with those steps. So.
Absolutely. And never be afraid. Never be afraid to ask for help. That was one of the things when I was little. I was ashamed. I was ashamed of my life. I was ashamed of my mom. I was ashamed of, being homeless, not being able to have new clothes, or, never knowing we were sleeping in our car. There was things that I was ashamed of, and that's one of the things is never be ashamed of who you are. It's okay, because who you are makes you the individual. It makes you that strong person. And sometimes people are ashamed of that. But that's why there are so many resources out there for you. And Vernon Hills has a ton of resources. You can Google all of those resources. Get out there, ask for that help. And there are so many people that are willing to help you. And that's one of the reasons that I got involved in pageantry.
Okay, let's talk about that.
yeah,
So when we think
yeah.
of pageants, sometimes I don't think about that that softer side, that giving back. I think of glamour and glitz.
And a lot of people do. And unfortunately, because of media and because of toddlers and tiaras, and people make fun of pageantry. But I'll tell you, pageantry offers scholarships. They offer money. They offer that building up of the confidence that a lot of people don't have. And I got involved in pageantry when I was younger because I needed the money. I needed to be able to somehow get into school and to pay for things. And I wasn't the most confident individual. And someone said, hey, this is what you should do. And I did it, and I tried it, and I didn't succeed my first time. I didn't succeed my second time, but that's okay. I went and I tried, and I never gave up, and I ended up being successful, over time, and I ended up getting scholarship money. I ended up getting cash prizes. Now, there are those toddler and tiara pageants out there. You just have to make sure you do your resources, you check your resources, do your research, and find the pageant that is right for you.
Well, that's the sort of thing somebody could even maybe check in with you and say, what
Absolutely.
do you know? You've been around the block.
I've been
What do
around
you
the
think
block.
should happen
Yes,
here?
yeah. So there are, certain pageants that you need to find that are right for you, that are the right fit. My family and I tend to do the natural pageants. We like to give back to our community. We don't like to do a whole lot of makeup, not the glitzy pageants. We don't like to do, the spray tan, the fake hair, all of those pageants. That's not what we like to do. Not that there's anything wrong with those other pageants. It's just not right for us. But that's how I got into pageantry, and it really helped me. It helped with my confidence. It helped with helping me get into colleges. It helped with paying my bills. And I've just instilled that in my children as well. When they look back at pictures and they're like, Mommy, can I do this? I've never said no. If they wanted to take a break from it, Mom, I don't want to do this, okay, then you don't have to. It has to be something that you want to do.
Well, and it's just as though some kids play soccer, some kids do all of the above.
Absolutely.
That's just another opportunity.
Absolutely. And pageantry is a lot like sports. It builds confidence. It builds team. You know, you have to look at it as a team. You're competing with other individuals. So it builds that team spirit. One person wins. There is a winner and there is a loser, and you have to understand that. You do. And it is a sport.
Well, let's talk about recently, as we're taping this. You've come off of a very interesting experience.
Yes.
You just recently competed as in the Mrs. Illinois pageant.
Mrs. Illinois America.
And you were as Mrs. Vernon Hills.
I
You
was.
represented
I
us.
did proudly.
Well, tell us about that experience and the doors that are opening after that.
So I just competed in the Mrs. Illinois America pageant, and it was a fabulous experience. The women that I met from all across Illinois, I made friendships. I mean, I have lunch dates set up with these women for the next several weeks. And it was a fabulous experience. I got first runner-up, which I was ecstatic about. I won the swimsuit award, which I'm 45 years old, and I was out there in a swimsuit, a one-piece, thank God. But I won the swimsuit award, I won the photogenic award, and I won the People's Choice Award. So I came home, just humbled and honored to be able to represent Vernon Hills. But more than that, again, like I said, the connections that I made and the friendships that I made that will last a lifetime are more than I could have ever imagined. And I got home and I started getting all these text messages and all these messages from people that I knew and didn't know. And some of them were from other systems saying, you were so confident out there, you were so amazing, we'd like you to come and represent our system. We'd like you to do this. So I always tell my children, everything happens for a reason. Don't ever be disappointed. Don't ever be disappointed if you don't win or if something doesn't turn out the way you want, because everything happens for a reason. And where one door closes, another door will always open. And I think that something is on the horizon for me, and I'm very excited about it. And there's for sure another door that's opening for me.
That's what I was going to say. As we're talking today, you're fielding all these calls from people who want you to compete, Miss Midwest, Miss all of these things, and you're still figuring it out. By the time people are watching this when it airs, you might have that all figured out. We'll see what's next.
I'm sure I will.
But in all those cases, as we talked before we rolled tape, you talked about it's important to share your beliefs, your vision, your encouragement. Yeah. And that's something you're going to take as you go through these next doors with these next pageants, I assume.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's things in life where you have to follow your heart. You have to, and what might be right for one person may not be right for the next person, and that's okay. And that's okay. You have to follow your heart, and you have to follow what you believe in. Just like, there's so many opportunities in Vernon Hills. Like, there's sports, there's the rec center, there's, all these community services that you can do. Some people may want to go to the mall and go to our wonderful new theater that we have. Some people may just want to go shopping. There's so many things to offer, and there's so many different personalities. And I believe that you just need to embrace everybody for who they are, and embrace everybody for what they believe in, and respect that. And that's how I raise my children, and that's how I embrace life. And if someone doesn't respect that and someone doesn't want to embrace you, then that's okay too. Just keep moving forward.
There's enough
keep
other
moving.
places to be. You can move it on. So, well, that is what's nice about our community and our larger community. Like you said, there are ways that you can give back. There are services you can connect into if you need help moving to the next step. But always try to keep moving and think about what can be the next thing.
That's right.
Which is what you're doing right now. I'm trying to figure out what the next thing is.
Yeah, and it's okay. Things don't always work out in your favor, and they don't always work out the way you want them to. but that's okay too. It's okay, and it's okay to be disappointed. Of course, I was disappointed that I didn't win. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run for the title. It's something that I wanted. I would have loved to have represented Illinois as Mrs. Illinois America. It didn't happen. It wasn't my pageant to win. And that's okay, because like I said, there are so many other doors opening for me right now, and something else is on the horizon for me. And that's how you have to embrace everything in your life. You can be disappointed, absolutely, because that's what life is. If life was always about being happy and everything was going to be perfect and happen for you, think of what a boring life that would be.
Yeah, and I think that is hard too, because I think sometimes we see in the Facebook world, we see everything looks rosy for everyone around us, but maybe some days I feel stuck or I don't know what to do. And what we need to do is learn how to connect and figure out where we can connect, and there's so many places for that. So.
And I think that's hard for our children too, because they are living in this social media world where everything on Facebook, everyone's always posting how perfect their life is and how great everything is. And that's really not the reality.
Yeah.
That really isn't the reality. And I think it's important that we teach our children that, and we teach to them that, sometimes, in our house, we shut down at dinner time and we disconnect from the world. And we say no cell phones, no iPads, no nothing. And we have to reconnect at the dinner table and say, look, this is reality and this is how life is. Let's really talk about what's going on, because it's not as perfect as everything always seems to be. And, everything is modified and everything is touched up and people are editing their photos so everybody looks perfect. And that's really not the reality of life. It's really not. I'm dressed up here today, but if you run into me in Mariano's, I don't look like this. I really don't. And that's okay.
Wow.
It's just how it is.
I think we're teaching our families, and we're remembering ourselves to be resilient.
Yeah.
To be resilient and keep going.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor to get to know you.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you for representing Vernon Hills.
It's
in Illinois
been a
pageant,
pleasure.
And whatever's happening going forward,
Thank
we'll
you.
cheer you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, and too, I think you sound like such an open person. So if somebody wants to know more, if you want to know more about pageants, or if you want to know more about the Haven, or if you need help knowing how to connect, or you need something, this woman here knows a lot about what's going on in town. So take the time to ask and get connected. But thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank
you
you
so much for serving us as the wider community.
Thank you
for
so
sharing your
much.
message. So thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
The way this whole thing got started a little over 3 years ago with a phone call to Glenn Hamilton over at the Cuneo Trust, and we're able to talk with those guys about finally putting into production this unbelievable piece of real estate at the corner of two state highways, putting it back on the tax rolls, employing a lot of people, building it, and ultimately operating it with all the great shopping center stores that we plan to open here. Took a long period of time, but I think what ultimately came out of all of the discussions, both at the local, the county, and even the state level, is a true public-private partnership to make this thing happen today. And everybody at Regency Centers and Focus Development, who you'll hear from in a little bit, and then Atlantic Realty Partners and the mayor and the county, we're all very proud of this day and everything that's gone into it to make it happen. We're really excited about our anchor tenants. First and foremost, Whole Foods. Thank you for the food, water, everything's back in the corner if you haven't already had it. We're really excited to have a full line Whole Foods here. Open up pretty much right where we're all standing in about 18 months. But them, along with Nordstrom Rack, REI, Home Goods, please, little slight plug, stay hooked up to our Melody Farm Facebook page. We've got almost 5,000 followers, just to go and show you how much people are anticipating this project. But that will be where we announce future retailers in the future. But we're really excited about having all those with signed leases and building this project for those folks.
Okay, I got some notes here that Joe made for me, but in reality, we've been doing I guess, business with the Cuneo family for now, I could honestly say decades. Because when I came on the village board, you know, in all deference to our friends to the north, they kind of, I think, stubbed their toe and they didn't annex this property in. And so we did, and that was in 1988. And this is always zoned for this purpose. Plus, at one time, I think John wanted a hotel here, John Cuneo. So, but that didn't come to fruition yet. Probably won't. But you know, he was an interesting guy. He still is. He's still alive. He's down in Florida. But for years, I knew a man that represented the Cuneo family. I want to say it was 55 or 60 years. And sometimes you can tell some pretty good stories. And I'm going to tell this one. He represented Charles Finley, the owner of the Oakland Athletics. And Charles Finley and Bowie Kuhn didn't get along too well. So there was always, you know, some hearings that were coming forward, and, you know, there'd be, you know, statements made, you know, before the hearing, but then every once in a while, Charlie Finley and Bill Meyer, who's the lawyer for Cuneo's, they would go to New York. And I don't know, Bowie Kuhn was, you know, they were talking about with the issue, and Bowie Kuhn said, "I heard you reference me as a fat ass," and he said that to Charlie Finley. And then Charlie Finley's response was, "No, you're a big fat ass." So on that point, this land, well, anyway, we've annexed in. Was the press here for that? Oh, yeah, God. All right. Okay. Well, anyway, the land we're standing on here was annexed into town in 1986. And between this and I think all the land that you see going down Milwaukee Avenue to the south until you get to Brookdale, you know, senior home, what was Cuneo's also. So I think it was a couple of hundred acres total.
4,000.
No, I know that. I'm saying from here down there, I think that was a couple of hundred. And then of course, the main annexation was 1,200 acres. But at one time, they owned 4,000 acres. But it's not all in Vernon Hills. Is it, Glenn?
It's now in Vernon Hills.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, anyway, the important thing is that this is going to be a great addition to the whole area. And as Tim said, we're going to have, you know, housing here. And one thing that we obviously we're participating to the tune of about $20 million in bonds when we float them. But what's going to come out of this too are some major public improvements. It's going to be right there at 60 and 21 because unfortunately if we waited for the state, we'd all be pushing up daisies. So in essence, welcome. This is a great project. There's been a lot of meetings, and I'm glad Matt Hendy came to his senses and he started listening to Dave Brown, or we wouldn't be here today. Other than that, have a nice day.
County Chairman Aaron Lawler. So how in the heck do you follow that?
Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
Oh gosh, you know, if Roger doesn't interrupt you, Representative Sente knows this. If Roger doesn't interrupt you in one of your comments, you probably aren't doing it right. So that's. But we are very excited about today. It was a true partnership. IDOT was indispensable in working with us on this intersection, getting necessary approvals. Obviously, we wouldn't be standing here without the village. And you think about the vision that they have put forth. We have a village that doesn't have a village property tax, and it's because we bring people to town and we rely heavily on the retail vibrant retail economy that we have. This is by far the last really corner of this caliber, I think, in the county that is undeveloped. And the county's role in it was to provide sewer. It was part of a long-standing agreement, and I got to tell you, there have been a number of iterations of this corner, of what it could look like, of what it might look like. I think years ago, Roger wanted us to just give them the approvals and then kind of let it roll, and we wanted to see something that was the right project and the right partner. And I've got to tell you, in working with Regency, I was incredibly impressed, not just because of their portfolio, but because of who they worked with. A much smaller project, a tiny one that many probably don't realize is also in Glenview, and that was owned by the late mayor of Glenview, Jim Smirlis. And he was a guy with a lot of integrity, a lot of character, and a lot of heart, and he loved his shopping center. And he chose to work with these guys, and to me that was the biggest possible endorsement, other than the caliber of the project that they're bringing, but really a great partner in this. We're also going to bring better access to this Des Plaines River Trail, one of the Forest Preserve's greatest assets, and so I think it is an opportunity for us to bring this project in, to get it done, and to get it done right. So thank you very much.
If you have comments or suggestions, please contact Mike Storto at 847-918-3560 or email mikes@vhills.org. Thank you for tuning into the Vernon Hills Update.